Hello guys, welcome to a new course Cursor, the AI powered code editor. In today's world, if you don't know Cursor, do not apply for jobs because almost in every company people are being asked to use Cursor a lot. They have even bought a premium subscription for that for each of their employees and they're using Cursor a lot. Another thing is you can build a lot of cool portfolio projects very quickly. You can learn a lot of tech stack by building with Cursor, and you can be a master in multiple technologies very quickly. This is what we are going to be doing this in this course. So let's quickly see like what we're going to be doing in this course. So the first thing is, let's quickly talk about the overview. We'll talk about like how AI fits seamlessly into how we code daily. This course is going to be guiding you from the setup to building some real projects, and at the end of the course I'll also give you some productivity tips that I generally apply when I'm trying to build a project or a POC using Cursor. Okay, why Cursor? First of all, what is Cursor, right? So Cursor is basically an AI powered code editor. You can think about this as like it's like VS Code plus a lot of AI things built right inside the editor. So Cursor is actually built on top of VS Code. It's actually a fork of VS Code. What is a fork? Basically, VS Code is basically open source. All the code is available on the internet. What Cursor people did, they took all the code of VS Code and they basically applied their own AI ideas on top of VS Code. So what you have is basically VS Code plus AI is what we call as Cursor. Okay, so it is built on top of VS Code and a familiar environment with extra AI powers basically, and it saves time on repetitive work. So basically, as you know, all the AI powered code editors, what it helps us in boilerplate, right? So boilerplate basically means, for example, if I want to build a Django project, so what you can do, you can just say Cursor, hey, get me a setup for a Django project very quickly. So it will do in like 1 or 2 minutes and you are done. Right, refactoring, if you have a large code base and you have a huge code in some file, you can just ask us, hey, refactor this, and it will do it for you. Imagine the time it used to do all this setup, right? Creating a Django project, creating a React based project, and figuring out like all the right technologies that should go with that. Now Cursor, it is actually trained on all this open source stuff and like what technologies others are using, and it can do it directly for you. So it's been so easy. Refactoring, just imagine, right? If it is a big file and you have to refactor the code and you have to write unit test cases, this is something that Cursor can do in 1 minute. Debugging, it will also see like how Cursor or editor like Cursor can help us in debugging problems in our project, right? Move faster from idea to working code to deployed project, right? So basically, what I'm expecting is you must have seen VS Code, and Cursor is very similar to VS Code. It's just that VS Code plus a lot of AI powers. That's it. Okay, now let's move, and who this course is gonna be. So basically developers or technical product managers. So basically product managers who know a bit of technical details, they are comfortable with basic web development or app development are good to go with this course. Okay, VS Code users who want to try an AI assisted editor or AI first editor, for them also this could be a very good course. Someone who wants less debugging and more creativity, like you want to build some POC, and let's say you're trying some startup idea and you want to get some POC up and running very quickly and you want to showcase it to investors, and maybe you are a product manager and you want to showcase some demo to someone, you can do it very quickly with Cursor. Okay, and someone who needs more speed and someone who has more clarity, or someone who needs more clarity about a particular technology, you can work with Cursor to develop that project, and on the go you can learn about like how this tech stack is working. Okay, now let's talk about what are we going to do. We'll be installing and setting up the Cursor. That's the first thing. We'll write, edit and refactor code using natural language. We are not going to be coding a lot, but we'll just talk to Cursor in natural language and expect Cursor to get me the code that I'm looking for. He's like your coding partner, and we are going to be working with our coding partner, basically Cursor, to kind of do the work. Debug smarter with AI's context awareness. So basically a Cursor has a lot of context about your project when you open a directory in the Cursor. So basically it knows, or basically tries to index your code and basically knows a lot about your project, and then you can debug very easily with the AI. Okay, auto-generated explanations and documentation. We'll be building a complete full stack app with the Cursor AI, and we'll also do push projects to GitHub from directly inside the cursor. So okay, so basically it has a kind of a button which can directly work like a version control system with us for any directory that we open inside the cursor. Okay, now let's go to the different chat modes that we have. I'm not going to talk about what these chat modes are, but there are different chat modes: agent mode, ask mode, and manual mode. So these are the 3 chat modes. We'll focus on the cursor in this course. Okay, how the course structure is going to be: we'll talk about a cursor tool. Inside the cursor tool, we'll talk about installing the tool, navigation and settings. So we'll spend some time understanding like what this code editor looks like and how is it different from VS Code and stuff. Okay, we'll also write and improve with AI tools. This is basically the chat. It has a context aware chat kind of interface where we can just talk with the AI to iteratively work on a project. Okay, so chat, inline basically if the editor is open and the file is open, we can just select some lines or basically select some lines and ask cursor AI or the chat window to kind of explain me the code and all those things, right? Or maybe generate some tests. And debugging. And we're building one full stack app. I'll not talk about what app we are going to be building, but this is going to be a complex project, and this is going to be a project very different from what the usual projects are. And we'll try to build a complete full stack application, including everything like auth, and then a database and the stack that I usually use, the stack that I generally use while building applications with Cursor. I use Cursor a lot, so I'm gonna share all this knowledge with you. Okay, so project, version control, and best practices as well. Like what are the best practices around Cursor? Okay, then there is gonna be an advanced course also of Cursor that I'll be posting once this course is completed. This course is gonna be a course for beginners. The advanced course is for people who are really want to deep dive into Cursor and do multiple advanced stuffs inside it, like deployment, CI integration, and all those things. We'll talk about that in the next course. In this course, it is only gonna be a beginner level course for Cursor. Okay, so that is it for this video. I'm very excited to start this course. In the next video, we'll do some setup, installation, and some navigation on Cursor editor, and we'll move very quickly for this course. So please do like and subscribe, and let me know what things you have built so far with Cursor and what things you would want to learn more. So I'll can plan my next videos accordingly. Thank you, and see you. Bye. Hello guys, welcome to the first lecture of a Cursor for Beginners course, and this video will talk about what is Cursor, and we'll also see how it compares with VS Code. Okay, so let's start. So Cursor is more than just a code editor. It's basically a lot of AI things that you as a user of the Cursor can do on top of VS Code. This is how I generally think about it. Okay, we'll also learn in this video how it fits into our daily coding workflows, like how we do the things in our daily coding, like debugging and maybe documentation and all those stuff. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so let's understand what is Cursor. So basically, like I said, it's a desktop code editor built on top of open source VS Code. So VS Code is basically open source, and what the Cursor team did, they basically forked this repository of VS Code, and they did a lot of changes that helped people like us use the AI powers inside the code editor. It keeps all the VS Code basics, like it has all the VS Code. It's like it looks exactly like VS Code, and then you can do like the navigation that happens in VS Code, or basically the extensions that you install in VS Code. All of these things you can do in Cursor as well. Cursor adds smart AI features for writing, refactoring, and explaining code. So this is how you generally think about the Cursor, is basically VS Code, and there is an AI layer that Cursor team has built on top of the VS Code. Okay. Now we'll talk about the AI power that Cursor gives to us as a code editor. It can generate code from just plain English, right? So if you just type like, hey, develop a Flask application for me, e-commerce Flask based application, it will just it'll ask some questions to you, and then basically what will happen, you have basically a simple e-commerce application ready with you. Okay, it provides context aware completions and inline explanations. So what it means is basically if you're writing something, you're trying to write some code, and then what will happen, it will give you a lot of hint around it's just not autocomplete. It's not about autocomplete, but it's like block of code that it can give as a hint to you from all the training on different coding data sets that it has done upon. Okay, Then supports automatic refactoring and bug fixing through just a simple plain English. You can just say, hey, refactor this file, refactor this feature, and you can ask also like, hey, fix this bug, and a cursor will try its best to do the job, right? It works like a coding partner instead of a passive tool, right? So earlier what used to happen, basically if you're inside a VS Code, you can get all those auto hintings, small, and then linting errors, all of these things you could have fixed with VS Code. But now what happens is basically a coding partner is there right sitting beside you, right? So you ask them, hey, do this job for me, in plain English, and it will do the job for you, okay? Let's understand the very important thing that we have to understand in Cursor is basically, since a lot of AI is kind of involved, we have to understand like how the models work behind the scenes, right? So what happens is basically Cursor as a code editor built on top of VS Code, it connects to these LLMs, right? Different large language models like ChatGPT-5, GPT-4o, Claude, Gemini, or your own as well, right? You can also host a local model using Ollama. We'll not be doing that in this course, at least. Maybe in a later future video we'll do that, but it connects to those LLMs to kind of help you in coding using those AI assistants or LLMs, right? And these models are basically designed to do different jobs, right? So it really depends upon what you need, speed or maybe accuracy, or maybe you need privacy and you don't want a lot of code of your repository or your company's repository code to be exposed to those LLMs. So depending upon, some models give you a lot of privacy around this, right? So you can do those things as well. We'll talk about this maybe later, like which LLM is suited for what thing. But for now, it's just that LLMs are basically the backbone of Cursor's AI powers, right? And privacy basically mode ensures that nothing leaves your machine, right? So you are interacting with the cursor, that is fine, but outside that, nothing should be exposed to other AI or other LLMs, right? So this is what about when we talk about a model, this is the kind of things that we look at: performance, privacy, accuracy, and cost, right? Okay, why should we care about Cursor? So basically it saves time on boilerplate and routine tasks, not routing tasks, it's routine tasks, right? So boilerplate basically means that, hey, just very quickly set up an application using Next.js for me, right? So you just pass this command, or you just pass this comment to Cursor's chat, and it will do that for you. Also, a lot of routine tasks like what do you call, maybe documentation, and then maybe some small refactoring, right? So you don't have to do that, Cursor can do this for you. It debugs and restructure code with fewer headaches and improves clarity with instant explanations. So basically you can just select a line of code and ask Cursor to give me the explanation for this, and that way you can very quickly learn a tech stack as well, right? Keeps code bases clean and maintainable, right? So once you are building a feature, and because there was very less time, so you wrote code very quickly, but then what you can ask Cursor, hey, this is the code I've written, please help me in refactoring this. So it can do the refactoring work for you as well, and generate a lot of documentation, generate a lot of inline comments and everything for you. It lets us focus on more on problem solving, less on grunt work, right? So these is the kind of work that is grunt work, right? Grunt work is basically generating the documentation, writing documentation for a function. All this work you can basically give it to Cursor, and it will do it for you. And you can focus more on the business rules, the core features that your PM or product manager or your manager is asking to do for you. You can focus more on that. Think about like what specific business rules, what domain rules you need to apply there, and you can just work with your AI powered code editor like Cursor to do the grunt work for you. Okay. And compared to VS Code, which was usually how we used to do, it was like very manual and tedious. And imagine like if you have to set up an Next.js application using the VS Code, then what you will do, you will look at a lot of documentation, scrape through it, figure out what commands work for you, install a lot of packages in your terminal and stuff. It was very tedious. It was very manual, right? With AI powered editor like Cursor, you can just ask Cursor to do this for you, and it will be very smooth, it will be very fast, and it will be like done in a very small amount of time as well. Okay, then let's compare between what VS Code gives us and Cursor gives us in terms of different features. So if you think about doing refactoring in the VS Code, it was like very manual. Then you again have to generate new test cases based on that. With Cursor, you can just pass a command, it will do it in 1 minute. Right. Similarly, about debugging, you have to do a lot of trial and error, basically write print statements or maybe put breakpoints and all those things, and then you will debug maybe in like 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours, depending upon your speed and how much you know about the tech stack, how much you know about the programming language and all those things. It will take a lot of time, right? With cursor, what you can do, let's say you figure out that, hey, maybe inside this function or inside this file the error is causing, you can just select this file and ask cursor to, hey, this is the bug I'm facing, can you identify maybe in which line it's causing me the error? So cursor will just give it to you, right? So documentation, you would have to type manually a lot of comments and all. With cursor you can just ask, hey, generate documentation for these functions or generate documentation for this file itself, like what this file is doing, and it will just do it for you very fast, quickly. Navigation in VS Code, what you used to do, you can just search for something and it generally does a literal search. Literal search basically, it goes through all the files or whatever indexing that has happened across all the files and will try to match string literal wise, right? But with cursor, it also has a semantic search, right? Semantic search is basically your AI knows which file is specific to what kind of things that it is doing, right? So you can also ask things like this, hey, where is the code for throwing this error when customer does this, right? So you can ask in this kind of a plain English, and cursor will tell you, hey, these are the files that are kind of impacting this kind of a feature, right? Then version control, you would have a Git panel and you will work with Git panel, and sometimes you also need to write a lot of commands in VS Code to do the version control system. With cursor, it can generate the commits for you, it can stage all the files for you, it can push the all the changes to a remote repository just by telling the cursor that, hey, analyze the changes that I've done in this commit and create a very professional and neat commit message for me, and let's push these changes to the GitHub, right? So you are now able to understand, right, between a editor like how we used to do code before and now with an AI powered editor, the things has become so fast, right? Now let's go ahead, and the core features that cursor gives to us is, first is definitely AI powered code completion. So for example, once you open a directory in cursor, what happens is cursor is aware of all the project details and what you are building around it. It kind of build an index around it, and then when you just ask for it, hey, let's implement the auth feature now. So it has all those awareness about your project, and based on the file structure architecture that you're following, it will try to create or build the auth feature for you very quickly. Natural language to code, this is very interesting. For example, if you're building a prototype or a proof of concept, it's very easy now. You can just say that, hey, let's build an application of a library management system. You just say this and cursor will ask you a few questions like what framework you want to use, what you want to do, and it will just build it very quickly. Okay, so in editor chat with project awareness, so there is an interesting chat feature in cursor, like we have seen in a Google Gemini course as well, that inside editor there is a chat feature, and you can basically, the chat feature is basically a way of you communicating with the cursor, and cursor is basically your coding partner and it can do the work for you, right? Then smart debugging and automation via agent mode. So there is two kind of chat modes in cursor. One is the agent mode, and three kinds of chat mode actually: agent mode, ask mode, and manual mode. In the agent mode, cursor behaves more like an agent. We have discussed what agent means in our Google Gemini course, so feel free to watch that course as well. That is also a very complete Google Gemini code assist course, and you can do basically what an agent can do, right? Agent is like a super smart person, a super smart intern that does a lot of coding for you, and it also understands the business rule, domain rules, what we are trying to say. It iterates on that and then try to generate the code for you, right? Now, very interestingly, who is using cursor today? Almost all the top tech firms: Stripe, OpenAI, Rippling, Figma, Adobe, they all are using cursor. And teams also use it for large projects and daily coding purposes, or building some new feature, or basically starting with a small project or some POC, or even in hackathons and all those things. Cursor is being used a lot in today's world. Okay. Now in the next video, this is it for this video. In the next video, we'll talk about actually setting up the cursor. And if you have been using VS Code, then it will be very easy for you to setting up cursor. We'll also try to import the settings that we have in VS Code to cursor, so that our cursor looks a lot like how our VS Code is. And then we'll start get a feel around like how the editor of cursor looks like. This was again a very theoretical video, but these are very important things that you really need to nail down on the basics of like what cursor is and why you are using cursor, why people are using cursor. And that's how I structure my course. I give a lot of theory before, and then eventually what you feel like, hey, it's too easy now, right? If you straight away dig into cursor, then it will be a very overwhelming for you. But going through a lot of theory concepts and then digging into that editor or the actual tool or implementation execution, it becomes very easy. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys, and I will see you in the next video where we'll start setting up the cursor. Okay, bye. Hello guys, welcome to the second lecture of a Cursor for Beginners course, and in this video we'll actually install cursor and explore the UI that we get or the interface that we get after installing the cursor. Okay, so let's go. So basically in this video we'll talk about cursor running on our system. We'll explore its interface, the different settings that it offers, and we'll also talk about some basics of cursor. So let's move. So you can go and click on this link to install the cursor, and very importantly, cursor works on all the operating systems, Mac OS, Windows or Linux, and it's very lightweight, right? You don't need any extra setup to get the cursor up and running. And basically you can just install the cursor, launch the cursor, and start building the projects using the different chat modes that we've talked about. Okay, so what I'm going to do, click on this link and let's go. And yes, I'll download it. And what I can do, and since I'm using an operating Mac OS operating system, so I'll download for Mac OS, and depending upon what your operating system is, whether Windows or Linux or Mac OS, you can download it for that one. And I'm using the version 1.6, which is the latest stable version. So let me do this. So let's download, and once the download is complete, we'll open the cursor and see what are the different settings that we have to explore. Okay, so let it download and let's go back to our notes, and in the next part we'll actually launch cursor and talk about these different settings that it offers. Okay, I'm using a free plan for as of now, but in the later videos when I will be building some complex projects using cursor, I'll talk about the benefits of free plan or the pro plan or the different plans that cursor offers. Okay, so looks like my cursor is installed. So what I'm going to do is go to my downloads, and let's go to downloads, and this is the file that has been downloaded for me, and I'm just going to put this cursor in my applications folder and let it go there. And once that is there, I can launch cursor. The size is pretty decent, around half GB or so. So what I can do, I can just open my Spotlight search and look for cursor. Okay, so once I open the cursor, let's see what is the interface that we get at the first launch of a cursor. And I'll say yes, open, I trust it. Right, so this is the interface I got, right? And if I just close this, let me just close this. And let me open cursor again. Okay, so this is the first interface that we got. Let's talk about like what different things are here. So basically it's talking about like my plan is free here, and I can open a project, or if you have a GitHub URL, you can click on clone repo and paste that GitHub URL. We are not going to do this in this playlist at least. Then you can also connect via SSH. So if some repository is located on a remote server, you can add your SSH locally. Basically adding SSH locally means the credentials that you need to connect to SSH server, right? So you can do that also. We are going to do the open project, and before that also, let's just quickly see, we have different settings here. But what we're going to do, we're going to open a project, and what I usually do is when opening a project, and in any folder, let's say in my desktop, I just create a new folder, right? So if I create, let's say, hello world website, right? So I just create a new folder, and then what I do, I open it inside the cursor. And what happens here is, right, so this is the interface that is open now, but what happens here is the directory that we have opened via this method, cursor now knows this, all the project is going to reside inside this folder. So do follow this thing, always create a new folder whenever you're opening a project inside cursor, and then open that folder. Okay, now let's talk about the different settings that we have inside this. Once we open a folder, it looks very similar to how VS Code is there as well. So we have a top panel. This is basically your global file kind of a things, and file commands and all those things. On the left panel, we have the file explorer. You can also do search across the different files and folders. There's this version control system, right? So basically, if you have a folder and you are doing some changes, you can do all the version control system from here only. Then this is very interesting, the agent part. So basically, if I click on here, this will open this right side panel of AI that is built inside the cursor, right? So let's click on this, and actually you can click on here also. On this computer it says 1. So if I click here, then it opens this AI panel. Okay, then we have the extensions here, and we have more run and debug, which is the basically you can run an application and start debugging around this, right? So this is about the left panel. The important thing is this file explorer. Basically this is where anything you ask cursor to build, basically all the files will be created here, and you can see it here. Okay, now let's talk about the right panel, and you can toggle this left panel using this button. So if you want more space in where you are coding, and you can just click on this and it will toggle the primary sidebar. It's called the primary sidebar. Okay, and you can click this one to get the bottom panel up. This is for your terminal output and errors and problems and all those things. So it's kind of an integrated terminal inside a cursor where you can do all those stuff. And let's say if you're running an application here, and if you find some error while running the application, you can just copy this error and pass that to this new chat window. This is basically your AI panel, right? This AI panel is basically, you can also rename this. So for example, let's say the first thing that we do while opening any new project is like set up an application, right? So we can do this as well. And then this is basically the agent part, right? So you can go here. This is the agent part and the ask mode. They're the different chat modes, right? This is the agent mode and the ask mode. And if you click on the agent mode, is basically say plan, search, or build anything, right? And the ask mode is basically ask cursor questions based on your code base, right? So not going to do anything here, but this is the AI panel, which will be using a lot to kind of passing plain English comments to cursor to build the application for us. Okay, another important thing that we have to see here is basically this settings part. So if I click on it, and this is the settings that is open for us. I'll toggle the bottom panel as well. I'll toggle the left panel as well. So we can just look at the settings panel, right? So there are some general settings which you can see here, and if you are using cursor a lot, so you can upgrade to pro version as well by clicking on upgrade here. We're not going to do that. So editor settings, keyboard shortcuts, all these settings are very similar to how VS Code has, right? So this is there, and then this privacy mode is basically what I was telling you, like your data will not be trained on or used to improve the product. They will not store our code, right? How that works behind the scene, like for my code base, if they're not storing my code and all, then how they're predicting the next response or how they are able to build the next set of features, there's something we'll talk about later. It's based on how code indexing works in cursor. It's an advanced concept, so maybe not talk about it in this course, but in the next course where we talk about the advanced cursor course, right? And then there are some notifications and all those things, and I have already logged in here, so let me just quickly log out. Right, so what I can show you is go up and you can click on this signing. When you have initially installed, it must have shown you this one, that signing to get started with cursor as feature. So if I do signing, and you can do yes login, right? And I can just open the cursor again, and it will see that yes, this email is currently logged in, right? So basically what it means is key, now this is the account that is logged in here, and cursor now knows that, hey, this is the account that is being used for building projects. So cursor has like this email, what all projects are there, and with the code indexing part, it is able to build projects much faster for you, right? And behind the scenes, obviously it uses different LLMs. We'll talk about that, right? So this is about the chat interface. So about chat interface, you have multiple settings here, not gonna go there. And tab also. Let's talk about the models part, right? So models part, basically these are the different kind of LLMs that I was talking about that cursor uses behind the scenes with your code indexed, right? Code index basically has different metadata and embeds, and with the code indexes and this LLMs, so basically it is able to predict for you like what set of changes need to be made for your next feature, or what set of changes need to be needed for your bug fix and all those things, right? So these are different models you can use. And another interesting thing is this API key. Again, we are not going to do this API keys part in this course because this is a beginner course. We are just going to talk with cursor in plain English and try to build some projects out there. Right, so if you have some OpenAI API key, so you can use that, and what cursor will do, basically your request will be optimized a lot, and it will using your API key for the LLM as well. and then what will happen is you will be using a lot of less request, and that API key will be used behind the scenes, right? So that is something you can do. And let's talk about also you can do MCP configurations here. Not going to do this in this course, but yeah, definitely in the advanced course we'll do MCP as well. Okay, so this is all I had to say here, and in the next video, from the next videos onwards, we'll actually start building some things using cursor. Okay, so this was about the interface of the cursor. We have already installed cursor, and we have talked about like how we can open a project. Whenever you're opening a project, create a empty folder somewhere in your machine and just open that folder, and then you can start building things inside that folder. Okay, so that's it for this video. I'll see you very soon. Bye. Hello guys, welcome to the third lecture of our Cursor for Beginners course, and in this video we'll actually build our first app using cursor. Okay, so let's quickly take an overview of what we're doing in this video. Okay, so we'll use cursor AI chat to write, run and debug real code. We'll learn through a practical Node.js Hello World app. We'll experience how cursor supports every stage of development, from writing code, from debugging, from fixing errors if we face any while running the app, and also iterating or maybe adding more features to the app. Okay, so in this video we'll actually build a Node.js app, and this will be a very basic Hello World app. Okay, so let's go. So like we discussed in the last video, it's very important to start with a project folder. So whenever we open cursor, you can open a folder, and wherever you want to create that project, just create an empty directory, and that will be your main folder for the project. Okay, so in this one we can maybe create a folder like Node.js Hello World app, right? And what happens with this, very important, it keeps the chat history tied to the project. Okay, so now the cursor knows that hey, the project is going to be residing inside this directory, and whatever indexing it wants to do, whatever files generation it wants to do, whatever the chats that you are doing in order to generate files inside this project, all of these things cursor kind of understands it more better. Okay, it ensures AI can create, edit files in the right place, so it will know that hey, this is the directory, all the files that I need to create, it will go inside this folder. It helps AI understand project structure from the start. Okay, so basically if you are randomly opening different folders inside the cursor, then it kinds of hallucinates in that way. Okay, it always have to fix it. Hey, I have to identify that where I should create some files, where I should create some files. But if we at the start only will say, hey, create a folder, this is my project folder, do everything inside this, and whenever I chat, the agent makes sure that only I have to create files only inside this folder. Okay, so let's do this exercise first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open cursor, right? And then let's close this. This is from the last video. We want the left panel with us, and this was the folder I opened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new folder. So let me create a new window actually, right? And then I can close this one, node in this, and then I can just zoom this guy, and then let's create open project. Before this, let me just zoom in a bit. Let's click on open project, and what I'm going to do is on my desktop only, I'm going to create a new folder and call this Node.js Hello World app. Okay, so let's create this, let's open. Okay, and this is the interface that we get. We have already talked about this interface a lot. So what I'm going to do is now my cursor knows that inside this directory it has to generate some files. Okay, so let's go back to our nodes now that we have done this. Let's go forward. So now will be creating our node app. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll give a prompt, create a Hello World Node.js app. Cursor, what cursor does, let's see that, and then we'll come back here again. Okay, so let's go there and let's say create Node.js. So this is basically the AI panel, right? And this is basically, there are two modes here. One is agent and the ask mode. We have already talked about what agent mode means and what ask mode means, right? So I can just rename this chat to my Node.js setup, right? So usually just name this chat modes like this, or basically your agent modes like this. And basically if you're building a different application, different auth inside the app, or maybe a different feature inside the app, so maybe you can just go to here and create a new agent, and basically it will start a new chat context from there. Okay, so let's just do this. So basically what I want is create a Node.js Hello World app that returns this response when a user opens the route route, right? So I think this is enough, and I will just set this model. So you can switch AI models here, but I'm going to keep it to auto based on what happens here is basically cursor in auto mode, cursor checks with different LLMs, which LLM you have tokens right now, and then it can make requests to them. And basically if you are just sticking to one model, it may be possible that tokens are like kind of exhausted, right? So auto basically allows cursors to switch to other models and optimize your token use for different requests. Okay, so let's send this response and let's see what cursor does for us. And the agent is in work right now. So it's saying I help you create a Node.js Hello World app. Let me start by creating the necessary files and setting up the project. So what it's doing is creating a package JSON with dependencies, create main server file app.js or index.js. So it wants to go to this directory and install these packages. npm install is basically installing these packages. Okay, so now let's see in packages and what all directories, what all files it's kind of saying. And this is very important, right? This is where you can just say that, hey, it's kind of creating these files on the go, and inside these files there is one kind of a green thing or basically an undo thing. If you do undo, it will go back to just being empty. If I just keep these things, then what will happen, the changes will be applied to this file. So agent doesn't automatically apply these changes, although it has done these things for us, it has created those files for us, but we can just keep this, click on this green tick or keep button to kind of keep these changes here in this file. Basically we are giving the permission to agent that, hey, I want to keep these changes, let's do this. Okay, and all you can do, you can just keep all as well, so that changes in all the three files will be there. So for example, these three files are created, you can just select keep all, and all the changes will be applied to these files. Okay, so what I can do, I'm going to keep this, right? And then once you do this, what happens is you can review the next file. So what will happen, wherever the cursor has made changes to the different files, you can go to those files, review those changes and accept it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review the next file and just see, okay, it has imported Express library, app, created the app, port is there, and on the root route it is sending the response hello world, and it's starting the server at port 3000 if the environment variable is not there. This is very basic Node.js code, right? So I'll say keep it, fine, and then I'm going to go review the next file. And this is just a readme file, right? So cursor, as you are building the project, cursor also creates a readme file basically about setting up the app, what architecture you are following and all those things, right? So let's keep this as well. So we'll keep it, fine. And now what cursor is telling us that, hey, you can change to this directory, which is this app, and then install these packages. Basically in packages, whatever node modules are there, like these dependencies are there, right? These dependencies are there, it will install, right? We have not installed it right now, but once we run this, so very interestingly, cursor has allowed us to do is inside the chat panel only, it's kind of giving us this terminal kind of a stuff where you can just run this command and it will automatically run this for us, right? So it is running the terminal command, installing the packages. Now the node modules folder has been created. It means Express library is kind of getting installed. So this is installed, and let's see, perfect. I have created a complete Node.js Hello World application for you. Here's what I've set up, and you should always read this through, right? Because what happens is during vibe coding, the editor creates a lot of stuff. It goes through multiple files. There's a lot of stuff. For example, in this case only we saw that 3 files have been changed, right? And these 3 files had a lot of changes. So you should always, while reviewing those changes, also try to work with cursor to understand the code much better. Maybe what you can do, you can create a new new agent chat, and then maybe use the ask mode there to understand the code a bit better before you commit to that particular project snapshot. Okay, so okay, fine, files created, this files, package.json, app.js, readme.md, documentation with setup and usage instructions, key feature, Express.js server running on port 3000. So it has already run the app as well. That is also good. Root route that returns hello world when accessed. Development support with NodeMon for auto start during development. It has also done the NodeMon as well. That is also good. So basically it's kind of a live kind of a thing. So NodeMon actually doesn't make sense to explain all this, but let me just tell you what happens. So inside this server code, whenever you make any change, right, from hello world to let's say hello universe, so what happens, it is kind of a live, right? So again, if you open the route, that root route in which we were kind of returning the response hello world, it will now return the response hello universe. This is what NodeMon is used for. Okay, So this is done, and then to run the application, install dependencies already done. We can start the server using npm start, and then you can open your browser and go to this one. You should see hello world displayed in your browser. And then for development with auto restart, you can use npm run dev. The application is now ready to use and can be easily extended with additional routes and features as needed. Okay, so this is good for me. Yeah, and here while reviewing changes, you can also do these things as well. That hey, these are the changes that Cursor did for us. Okay, so we already reviewed our changes, so not going to do that. And then what we can do is either you can use the terminal right inside the cursor, right? And inside this folder, you can run npm run dev. But what we can do, we are going to ask Cursor to kind of, hey, let's run the app for me, right? So hey, let's run the app. Okay. So what Cursor is going to suggest, it will do this npm start. I'll say run, and then perfect. The Node.js hello world app is running in this in the background. Your app is running at this. Let's click on this link and click on this link. And it's not working. Why? Okay, let me copy this link and let's just, or we can open from here and see here the hello world is kind of returned in the root route for us. So wow, this was really good. Like we were able to kind of create the Node.js app, set up everything using just one single prompt, right? We don't even have to know like what Cursor did for us. Yeah. If you even have just some basic knowledge around client and server or just Node.js, basics of Node.js, you can build such great apps, right? So anyways, let's see. So what Cursor did, Cursor scaffold key files for us. It saved time with ready to go structure. So like Cursor has been trained on multiple code bases that are there online, and based on that structure, it did find the intent behind my prompt, and based on that intent, it was able to kind of say, hey, he's trying to just create a simple setup Node.js app and return this on the root route. Okay, so now that we have done this, let's go ahead and we have run the app as well. So good. And there are multiple features, right? Errors, features, chat modes. Chat modes we have already seen. Models we have already seen. We'll talk about few things here. We'll now ask Node.js or Cursor to kind of build something, right? It has already built our app, but we'll now ask it to add a new route and a new feature there. And let's see how Cursor interprets this. And we'll do this prompt, right? The prompt is basically, I want to add a slash random route which returns number between 1 and 100 inclusive, right? So what I want is basically a random route, and when I go there, what should happen is it should return me a number between 1 and 100, and let's see what it does for us. So I'll give this request to Cursor and let's see what it does. And then Cursor has interpreted this request and it is doing some things. And so here you automatically can see review next file. So look like the changes are done. And it has added a random route. It returns a number between 1 and 100. Random, it chooses this number and returns the JSON as a response. So I'll say yes, keep this. Okay. And then let's go back. And we started this project using npm start, not run dev. So I'm guessing that we will not have displayed in this route right now, right? Because the nodemon thing was not running. So what I can do is go to Cursor. So I'll say kill the app and run again. Okay. So let's see what Cursor does now. Okay. So Cursor wants to kill this. So we'll say, okay, run. Let's see whether it is, it is able to kill the app here from here only, and we'll do npm start. So let's say run, and yes, so now the app is running. Now let's just check our route, and if we refresh it, we got this number 78. Let me zoom this and show you. Number 78 is returned. Wow, this is really awesome, man. This is so powerful. I can't even explain you this, right? Okay, so we can do multiple things as well. I wanted to talk about this thing as well. So for example, here what you see is this add part, right? So you can just select this part, or maybe what I can do now, I can just change this and get an error, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say kill the app and run again, right? So this is an error, right? There is no random number variable, but it is the random number. So let's do this. So okay, so we'll say yes, run this, and let's run this. Yes, run this, and the app is running now. So let me go back and refresh this, and we have an error, right? This is not defined. What is this? I don't know, right? We created a random number variable, it was fine, but I'm getting this error. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna maybe create a screenshot out of this, right? And what I'm going to do is go back to my code and pass this image as a context, right? So this is basically what has happened is we are kind of providing this context to my cursor AI panel. And then what I'm going to say, hey, I am getting this error on the /random route. Can you please check and fix it? Let's see what cursor does, right? So we intentionally did it, but usually this is what you get sometimes, these errors, right? So it has made the changes, it has identified that random number was the error. So we'll say keep it, and then we'll run this. It will again kill my app, and then it will start running it again. Okay, so it has run the app. Let's go back, let's refresh, and our number is printed again. Okay, so these are some of the very advanced stuff, or not advanced, but the basic stuff that is something that you have to know about cursor. And very quickly we were able to set up a Node.js app, build 2 routes, and even fixed our error which we actually created, right? So this was really good, and that is it for this video, guys. And then from the next video onwards, we'll talk about a little more features in cursor, and we'll go towards building a very complete full stack app using cursor as well. Okay, so I'll see you soon. Bye. Hello guys, welcome to the 4th lecture of Cursor for Beginner series. Okay, and in this video we'll talk about the various development workflows that happens during coding in Cursor. Okay, so let's quickly see the overview of this lecture. What we're going to do, we'll learn how AI can debug and refactor code for us. We'll start with a small fix in a particular script, and then we'll see how to fix runtime errors, fix bad code, refactoring, and also search code, right? So these are things we'll try to demonstrate using Cursor. And the reason we should do these small things is because it builds confidence before we start building the bigger project. So these are essentially the kind of features that Cursor supports in the different workflows that happens while development. Okay, so let's quickly see. So we'll also try to fix this with AI. So we'll highlight a faulty line, and then we'll ask Cursor for fix. We can also add terminal output to guide AI. And this cycle is very important in Cursor, right? So basically you see some code, and then you find that, okay, this is where the fix, this is where the error could be. You select it, and then basically you select that code to get it to the chat interface of Cursor. And then you ask Cursor to fix it, and then run the code. Okay, now let's quickly go back to Cursor. And this was actually the last application we built. Actually, our first application is Cursor. So now we are going to do is we are going to open a new window, right? And let's quickly zoom this. And every time what we do, we basically, while opening a project, we create a new folder in the desktop, or basically wherever you want, right? So I'm going to call this Python, not this, desktop. And we are going to create a new folder. Let's call this Python multiples. Okay, so I'm going to create this folder and open it inside Cursor, so that Cursor knows, hey, all of the things regarding AI that it has to do inside this directory. Okay, so this is the folder that is open. I'm going to create a new file. We'll call this multiples.py. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a very simple function where I have to calculate the sum of multiples of 3. So let's do this. So def is how you can define a function. What I'll do is I'll collapse this left panel, so we have more coding space here, and then we will say sum of multiples of 5. Okay, and then we pass a number to this, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to start with sum is equal to 0. Then we go through each number in range from 1 to number. Is basically a loop running between 1 to a number, right? So if you have 1 to 7, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 till this it is going, right? And I think number is not inclusive, so we're going to just add 1 here. Okay, and then we say if I mod 0, if I mod 5 is equal to 0, then we're going to say sum is equal to sum plus I, and then we return the sum. Okay, and see how amazingly Cursor was kind of giving the hints to us as well. And this basically the I runs from 1 to number, right? Not inclusive this number. Okay, so this is the function that we have written now, and what I'm going to do is I don't want this one to be output like this, but instead I'm going to say, hey, sum of multiples of 5 will be this, and then we do plus sum multiples 5 of 1000, right? And why is it adding a string? I don't want this. I'm gonna delete this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this code and let's see what does it work or not, right? So I'm going to start a new terminal and let's clear this. So we'll say python 3 and then multiples.py. So let's run this code. And we have an error, right? So basically it's saying type error, can only concatenate string, not int to str. Whatever it's saying, I don't care about that. I'm just gonna ask us to fix it. So what I'm also saying is file this line 10 is where we're getting the error. So what I'll do is I'll select this text, okay, and then I'll say add to chat, and I'll say I am getting the error, and I'll just paste this error, right? So this is the error we are getting. So let's copy this and paste it here on this line, right? So line is already added as a context inside this, so I don't have to write that on line 10 again. Okay, so I'm just gonna enter here and let's see what cursor does for us. So this is how basically I can just select some lines and ask cursor that, hey, maybe this is where my error could be. So could you check and fix that? So yes, so cursor has done this, open file exact line causing the type error, and it's doing a lot of things, but it's actually a very small fix. But yeah, let's see. So it has put it inside of some kind of formatting function. So let's keep it. Then we'll see whether it's working or not. Now looks like it has fixed it. So now let's run this. So python 3 multiples of py, and yes, we did got the output this time, right? So this is how it fixed it. Let me just command Z this and we'll say undo, right? So what I'm going to do is let's run this again. Okay, so when I run this code again, what you see here is that I can straight away copy the error from the terminal itself, right? So I can just say add to chat, and it has added the chat. The terminal is kind of added as a context here, right? So can I move this? Can I move this? Let me check. Yes, I can move this. And this is where the error is, right? This is basically terminal selection from line 1 to 6. This is already added as context here. So I'll just say, please fix this, right? So now let's see what cursor does. So cursor is basically now having this error as a context, and it will try to fix this inside the file as, right? So let's see. Okay, so cursor was able to do this. So basically it was able to take this terminal as an input and was able to figure out that this is where it has to fix the error. This is also very cool, right? So I'm going to accept this, and then let's run the code now. And this time it ran fine, right? So this is how you can also fix the code. Okay, so now let's go back to our slides and let's move ahead. So now we can also do some refactoring with cursor, right? So AI not only improves our working code, which is like fixing bugs, helps in debugging, but it also helps in improving or basically refactoring the code. Let's do this refactoring. So what I can do is I'm copy this, right? And then I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to say sum of multiples of 3. So let me put my terminal down so we have more space. So this will be terminal, this will be multiples of 3, and I'm going to do the sum for 3. And then what I'm going to do, copy this and then paste it here. Now I'm going to do multiples of 7, and this will be 7, right? So this is fine. Then what I can do is copy this, paste, right? So I can do sum of multiples of 3 and sum of multiples of 7. Right, so what I'm doing, I'll just tell you, let me just quickly do a few setup, and then now if I run this python 3 multiples.py, so this is what, okay, so this should be 5, 3 and 7. So I'll do, this will be 3, this will be 7, right? So let's run this again. Where is my terminal? Okay, so now run this. It is running fine, right? So let me just move this out. Now what I wanted to do here is, guys, I wanted to I just seeing this sum is equal to 0, sum is equal to 0, sum is equal to 0. This is also running through a loop, running through a loop, running through a loop. So I feel like that this could be refactored into one function, right? So maybe one function that takes the number as an input, right? and also the factor as an input, and then based on that factor it can calculate the multiples of that factor from the range of the numbers, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the entire file and paste it here. So it is kind of, it doesn't paste the code here in prompt, but instead paste that as a context here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say refactor the 3 multiples function to just one function. Okay, so let's see what cursor does. I think that it should do something like this: sum, multiples, number, and factor. So let's see what cursor is going to do. Okay, so it has done this, and this is what it has done, right? Sum, multiples, number, multiple. So I'll say yes, keep, and yes, keep, and then accept this. And yeah, so this is what our code is now. And if we run this code, let's open our terminal again. So we can say Python 3 multiples py, and it runs the same. The output is the same. And this is so good, right? I don't have to refactor the entire thing manually, which would have taken me like 5 to 10 minutes at least, and fixing all the errors. And this cursor has done it very fast for us. Okay, so not only just refactoring, and also optimize your logic a lot with cursor. We're not going to do that in this lecture, but we'll definitely do this when we'll be building complex projects. Okay, so let's move ahead. And one more thing I want to do is search code efficiently. Okay, and there are 2 kinds of searches that happen via cursor, at least, which has AI enabled inside. One is the keyword search, or also called as literal search or exact match kind of a search, right? Which you must have been familiar with searching in VS Code. Another search is called a semantic search, or also called as natural language queries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my Node.js project that we built earlier. So let's open that, and let's say we were in package.json, or basically let's say we are in app.js, right? So what we're going to do, we can do this kind of a search like express, and it has given us a lot of things, but I really wanted to check the dependencies here. So basically this is what the one, but it has given me 11 results in 4 files, right? And what I wanted to do was like express in package.json. This is the search I wanted to do. Okay, so let's see how you would go about doing this search in using the cursor AI. So let's remove these guys, don't need them. Now what you're going to do is say to cursor search for express package in package.json. Not like this, but we're going to say where is express package coming from? Why, how is it getting installed, right? So you can not only do semantic search, but also ask questions to cursor. So let's see, where is express coming from and how is it getting installed? So let's say what express gets us for this query. Short answer, the express package defined package.json and the dependencies as express this, and then you got a lot of information, right? So I can click on this package.json, and here I can see the express also marked as, right? Either here also it is kind of highlighted that this is where it's coming from. Okay, so this was about semantic search in cursor. Like I didn't do anything, but I just put my query, like I had some doubt in mind, and cursor was able to understand my query. Okay, so that is it for this video, guys. And in the next video we'll do a little more basics of cursor, and then we'll start building some projects. See you soon. Bye. Hello guys, welcome to the 5th lecture of Cursor for Beginners series, and in this video we'll actually understand how we can understand code and also document code. Okay, so let's start. So let's get a quick overview of the lecture. So in this video we'll learn how to make sense of unfamiliar code using AI. We'll reduce guesswork when reviewing old or complex code. We'll auto-generate clear documentation inside the editor. Okay, so what will happen is basically I'll show you a very complex code, and then what you can do is you can use Cursor AI to explain the code that is written inside that. Okay, so let's go. And what will happen is some confused developer, and there is a lot of code, and you can use Cursor AI to understand that code better, and also you can document stuff inside the in code from inside the editor. Okay, So why documentation matters? It's very important. Documenting your code is very important, and big companies always have a very good documentation around the code that they have written or around the product they have written. What happens is when new employees come, right? So they need to understand the code very quickly. Otherwise, it can take very long time to understand the product, right? So this is what we call as onboarding in the new companies, right? So onboarding becomes a lot faster with good documentation. It saves time in revisiting, right? So for example, some employees have been on a break for let's say 1 month or 2 months or have gone out. And then when they come back, it becomes very easy for them to just go through the documentation, understand the product a lot faster or understand the changes a lot faster, right? So it prevents mystery code in the future. Sometimes when you're writing code and sometimes you don't really know how these things are working, but you can just write a piece of document there that, okay, this is something that I'll revisit later. Or if there is a lot of really a complex code, you know, at that point of time, but maybe in the future you'll forget about it, right? So what you do, you document some things around that and write that, okay, this particular line of code does this particular line of thing does this. So this documentation, actually onboarding becomes faster, saves time when revisiting, and prevents mystery code in the future. So this documentation is more about the clarity of the product or clarity of the code. Okay, so what we'll do in this lecture, we'll also demonstrate this. So let me quickly just tell you what we'll demonstrate. So understand code with AI. So basically we'll have some raw code. Raw code basically means only the code part is there. Okay, and there will be no comments and all, and then we'll try to work with Cursor AI to understand the code better. I'll explain you some workflows and adding comments inside that and adding documentation for the code as well, right? So we'll start with raw code, no comments, nothing. We know that method names in the code, right? Whenever there is function or the function names, it gives hints, but logic is not always clear, right? You can just write some kind of Fibonacci function, complex Fibonacci function. You are inside that using caching, you are inside the recursive function and all those things. So function names gives you some clarity, but logic is not always unclear, right? So we'll select a function, use ask, explain this. We'll ask follow-up questions with AI to deepen our understanding of the code. Much faster than line by line reading and debugging. And this is what we used to do earlier, right? When there was no code AI editor or something like that. What we used to do, we try running the project first. And when we're running the project, we'll try to go line by line and see how the values are flowing and how is my understanding correct. You will validate it. You will read line by line and go through that, right? Now with AI code editor, you can just ask Cursor to, summarize my code and all those things. Okay, AI can explain whole classes or modules. Project wise questions also you can ask for big picture view. Okay, so let's go to my Cursor editor. And what I've done is inside this I have opened one folder, code and docs with AI, right? And inside this I have a file called as employee.py file, and this is a very complex file, right? This is what the file looks like. Now it's if you see here, this is a lot of code, right? And it's very difficult to kind of see what the things are happening. And then what I have to do is I have to use my brain a lot, put a lot of pressure on my brain to understand this code, right? What I can do is I can just maybe let's say copy this code, or maybe just select this code, and then I can press Control K, I think Control K, not Control K, but Command L, right? Command L in Mac, or you can know in Windows it will be, I think, Control L or something, right? So this will open this entire selection in the chat mode, and then what I can do is I can ask my Cursor AI to explain this class to me at high level, right? So I'll just ask Cursor to put all the selection as a context inside this AI pan, and it will basically go through this code to get me a quick explanation of what this code does. Okay, so let's see what Cursor generates the summarization for us. And it's the high level overview. This is very good, right? What it is: a rich domain model for an employee with strong validation, computed properties, and business rule and consolidated methods. It also tells you what data fields are there. So basically identity, contact, right? Job details, compensation, capabilities and work, performance and HR, extensibility, validation on creation, computed properties. So there are a lot of details that it has created for me, and I get to a very quick understanding of what this project is doing, right? So this is how you can do, or maybe you can just now you have read through this and you're going through a simple function. Let's say let me just move my left pen outside, and then what I can do is I can maybe copy this function, right? Adjust salary, and I want to understand that, hey, what does this function do? So you can see here add to chat, right? So you can press Command L. If I press Command L, so it will add it to my chat, and then I'll say explain this, right? And usually when asking AI to explain me the code, you don't have to use the agent mode. You can use the ask mode as well. This ask mode is really good at explaining the code. So I'll do this. So let's do this, explain this. Although for the class, actually I use agent mode, but generally for explaining the code a little better, you can use the ask mode. And this is what ask mode is done. It has selected this function, and it has given me details about the function as well. What is the purpose of the function, and different guards are there. Basically, I am throwing different exceptions at different point of time, and what is the effect is, right? So computes, if validates, sets this salary. Okay, so this is about explaining the code. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to agent mode, and I'm going to say, hey, generate. I'm going to select all the code and then press Command L. So it will add it here, and I'll say generate comments for this code, right? So let me just enter this, and this time I'm using agent mode because I'm asking someone to generate things, right? So that this is most about edit mode or adding stuff to your project already. Okay, so what I'll do, the agent will scan the file to prepare precise doc strings and add concise, helpful doc strings to the class and methods without changing logic or formatting. Doc string is basically nothing but for each function and all, what parameters are getting passed and all those things. So based on that, it tries to generate some documentation. This is really useful. So let's see what cursor does for us, what kind of documentation it will generate. And let's wait for maybe 1 or 2 more seconds, and it should be done by then. This is a really long class actually. This has like 270 lines of code and actually no comments here. So it will be very interesting to see what cursor does for us by generating all the documentation. Let's see. Okay, so looks like cursor has done generating the doc string for us. So basically I can see that for each at the file level, it has added some good description at the top, right? So I can say keep it, fine. Then I can see for each class as well, it has added some doc strings. So I can say keep it and keep it. And the interesting part is, since there are a lot of things and you can just quickly review them one by one, this is what you should do, or you can just say keep all of them, right? So if I do keep, so it will basically accept all the changes. Now if I see this is really good, right? A lot of documentation has been added at the class level, at the function level, and at the function level, and what I'm seeing is not a lot of parameters is kind of added in the documentation. Does it? Adjust base. Oh, it has added here. So this is also very good, right? And after adding the documentation, this is what it's suggesting. Would you like me to include parameter return type details in the doc strings using a specific style, Google, NumPy, or REST? I'll say no. It's fine for now. It's fine for now. Thanks. Okay, so this is how you can generate documentation for your code, and we have been able to generate high-level documentation for the file as well. And what we can do is we can also ask at a project level documentation. So what I can do is I can just open my Node.js Hello World app, which we generated long back. So what I'm going to do is ask my agent, cursor agent, to generate a documentation for the project, right? The project can be really big, and I want to understand like what this project does. So what I do is, hey, what does this project does? Please generate a small summary for this project. Okay, let's ask agent to do this. You can maybe we can also try ask mode here also to kind of go through this project and help me generate a documentation for this. So this is what it's doing. It's going through the package.js app.js file, or basically going through all the files that are there in this directory, and it's trying to give us a project summary. And this summary is really good, right? At the project level, you can ask a lot of things about like what does this project do, and you can get a very quick summary of what does the project actually is doing, right? So this is what it is, and this looks good to me. So this is what we wanted to do in this basically project wise questions, and AI can explain whole classes or model. This is what we did, and as you can see, this is much faster than line by line reading and debugging. Now I'm going to give you one very good demo of like how I usually go for this understanding. Okay, I have gone through asking cursor that, hey cursor, explain me what this line of code does, what this line of code does. They are good, but you usually want to really put it in your mind through small examples to how what this code is doing, right? And this is what we call as usage examples. So what I'm going to do, so this is something we have already done, add docstrings and commands. Will ask UI AI to create usage examples. So let me just go back to our code here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this again. So command A for select, and then command L for putting it as a context in the chat mode, as you can see here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, hey, generate usage examples for this employee class. This is really important. Okay, so basically what it will do, it will basically it's like writing unit test cases, and basically how your class is behaving, each function in the class, how it is behaving, right? So I'm going to just press enter. So what it's going to do is going to go through this class entirely, and then it's going to write different functions like full name. What does the output of full name comes to? Tenure days, latest rating. And then what you can do, you can run that file, let it generate. Then what will happen, you can run that file to understand the output of this class a lot better. I'll show you what it means. So let's just do the let it do this work. And what it has done, let me just open the left panel. So I think it has added in this only. So what I'm gonna say to this is add this in a file called as employee usage.py. Okay, so what I wanted to do is basically all the usage examples that is generated above, add this in a file so that I can run that file and then work with those examples, right? So let it add now it is adding runnable usage examples for the employee class in the employee usage.py, organized into small demo functions and a main block. This is what I wanted to do, right? So that when I run this main block, I should be able to understand like what full name returns, what tenure days returns, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see. So we have the file here. We can say keep, not gonna review much. And then what we can do now, we can go to terminal, new terminal, and let's just clear this, and then we say, let me move this out and minimize this a bit, and then we can say Python 3 and employee usage.py. Now if I run this, let's run this, and these are the kind of output that we are getting, right? So now what you can do, you can go through these functions like what it is doing, right? So you can just say, hey, create employee examples, then printing this full name, tenure days, and this is what the output is coming, right? This is what the output is coming here, right? This is employee name, tenure days, and this is how you can understand the project a lot better. Very quickly understand, like when you call this function or when you call this thing on employee class, this is what the output is coming. And after creating this employee object, right? After calling this employee object, this is what the output is coming. So you get a very quick picture of like, from this print, this is what I am getting inside my terminal. So this is how you should understand the code a lot better. Cursor AI makes it very easy to generate this simple examples and following through those examples to understand and document and commenting your code a lot better. Right, so that is it for this one, and we can also generate a README file for documentation. You can, for example, ask this Cursor AI to kind of generate a README file or markdown format file for this file, and then what will happen, you can just commit this code on GitHub, and whenever some project overview and all those things, you can add those in the README file. We have done this in the last project, right? In the small Hello World app that we built using Node.js. Okay, so that's it for this video. This was a very interesting video where we generate documentation, comments, and try to understand code a lot better using the Cursor AI. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video where we'll learn more about Cursor. See you, bye. Hello guys, welcome to 6th lecture of a Cursor for Beginners series, and in this video I'll tell you about my tips and tricks that I use while building an application or a website or a proof of concept in Cursor. Okay, so let's start. So the first thing is always start with a plan. So usually I don't straight away jump into Cursor and start building something, But usually what I do is go to ChatGPT and ask for a step-by-step roadmap. So basically it gives me a execution plan which I can follow in order to build with Cursor. And also I brainstorm with ChatGPT for like half an hour or 45 minutes into something that I'm trying to build, right? So the main reason I do this is basically it aligns my expectations, and also there is not a guy standing there, so not always it can ask you the right questions. It's AI, right? So you should make sure that still treat it like a machine, and basically you get your requirements as clear as possible at the start, and then feed that thing to the machine or the AI to build your project. And it reduces rework also, right? So basically if the AI hallucinated and then basically it went in some other direction while you wanted to build this, but it was not in the requirements, then what will happen is basically you will again have to rework on that thing, right? So this roadmap is kind of ensures that you don't fall into these problems. Okay, so let me go to ChatGPT, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new chat, right? And what you can do is basically, let's say I want to build a library management system, right? So this is how you can give some prompt, and then basically you can say give me a step by step roadmap for this, right? So once you give this prompt to ChatGPT, what it will do, it will basically analyze and see like what all library management has been built. And basically now what you want to do, you are asking ChatGPT to create a plan for this. Once it creates a plan for this, then basically you can iterate or work with ChatGPT to kind of maybe add this feature. Maybe you don't need this feature. Maybe you need this kind of auth. Maybe you don't need this kind of auth. So these are things you can work with ChatGPT while chatting, right? And generate the plan and requirements accordingly. Right. So once the roadmap is created, then what you should do is, and once you have discussed with ChatGPT for like those 30-45 minutes, cleared your requirements, then what should ask ChatGPT to give me a plan that I can put it inside Cursor for it to execute, right? So this is what it is doing, and let's quickly go through this. Let it generate for some time, and then we will see that how we can import or basically take this and work inside the Cursor. Okay. So let it do its thing. It's fine. Okay, so this is what ChatGPT has generated for us. So what we can do is actually, this is a lot of stuff. So I'm going to just say that, hey, just create a new readme.md file with this points above, right? So usually what you do is basically you go through all those things that ChatGPT has written for you, and you work with it to refine these requirements as per your needs, right? So because we had a very general prompt that we want to build a library management system, but it could be that ChatGPT had assumed something else and you wanted to build something else, right? So based on that, you talk with it and refine these requirements. We are not going to do that in this one because this is more of a demo kind of a thing. And then what you do is basically just say, hey, just create a new readme file with these points above, and let's just enter. Okay. So once it does that, let it do its thing. So once it does this, what you can do is basically either copy all this or you can download it. Let me download this. So I'll download it as an MD file, right? So this is what we wanted, library system roadmap.md file. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Cursor, right? And then we are going to open a project. In our desktop, we are going to say library management system, right? This is what you want to create, and then we'll say open. Okay, then inside this, what we're going to do is we are gonna we will open our readme file, library management system file here. So we're going to go to Revision Finder, and then we can go to downloads, and we can copy this file, right? And we can go back to our editor and paste it here. We'll say yes, allow the paste. Okay, And this is what we want to do. This is the file that we want to do, and we can just copy this and add it to our agent mode, or add it to our AI pan and press Command L. And this is what it has added here. And all you have to say here, hey, let's start implementing this. So this is what I wanted to tell you about. You can press let's start implementing this and start enter. And then what will happen is basically your plan is ready, and now cursor has the exact plan. It has a lot of context that this is how it wanted to start your project. We'll not do that, right? This is just about my tips and tricks. In the next video, we'll actually go about building some projects. So in this video, I just want to talk about the tips and tricks that I generally follow. Okay. So next part is basically the chat mode. We know that we have worked with, one is agent mode, one is ask mode. Agent mode, when you want to do a lot of project wide things, or maybe something that goes through multiple files before building something, that is what agent mode is. Ask mode is basically for Q&A and explanations, right? We have already done this. The third part is adding context before asking, right? So we have seen these things, right? In this also, if we didn't have that context, right? Let's say if we didn't have this, and we'll just say cursor, let's start building a library management system. It doesn't have a lot of context. It doesn't have a lot of plan, right? So what happens is when we say this, like when we say this and add as a context here, my cursor has a lot of context. My cursor has a lot of picture that this is how I'm going to start doing things. What happens with that is basically the AI performs better with the whole picture. This is what happens, right? Someone is doing the job for you. If you give him the clear picture, if you give him the clear requirements, and the person is capable, is skillful, then he can do that job, right? If he is not capable, is not skillful, then obviously he's going to mess up. But if you're not giving him the correct requirements, then definitely, even if he's very skillful, he's going to mess up that job. Okay, so context is basically fewer retries, and it basically gives you smart answers. This is what AI is actually, right? Okay, always review, like review changes before accepting, right? For example, let's say we say this to cursor, and let's start implementing this. Let's see what cursor does for us. So it is going to scan through all the files and planning, project initialization, and all those kinds of stuff. Then what we'll do, basically, as we have seen before, doing some projects in cursor, what happens is cursor ask you to review these changes, or maybe review all of them at once, or basically if you want to keep all or undo changes, whatever you want, right? But the interesting thing is basically, and the main thing here is that basically you should review it. You should review everything. You should know everything what AI is doing for you. So in this case, for example, you can see this, that these are the to-dos that cursor has come up with. Initialize monorepo structure based on the requirements that we have given to cursor. Scaffold this app, create Fastify TypeScript API in apps API, initialize Prisma in packages DB, add Docker Compose with Postgres and services wiring. And then cursor is saying that, hey, I'm gonna do this. Are you following me? Can I do this? Should I run this? And then if you click it, basically you are saying that, okay, I agree with this, and I know what you're doing, so I'm saying okay. And this is where cursor is like waiting for approval and all, right? So basically the point is you should always review changes what cursor is doing. Okay, so let's run this for it once, and we'll say yes, I have reviewed it. Runs this, run this. Yes, I have reviewed this. Run, right? Review this. Yes, run. So we are doing a lot of things, but not reviewing everything, but yeah, you should review each and everything, like what cursor is doing, and this is how you can learn very fast as well, right? So cursor has initialized monorepo structure and something which we kind of generated from a plan. We'll say run this. So not gonna go much into here, but yeah, always review changes before accepting what AI is doing for you. Get integration from the start. This is very important, right? So what is happening here is, like, let's say let it do its first thing, right? Basically this is like setting up the project now. So I'm going to just say run, and we will, like, there are 5 steps that it kind of organized, right? Actually at every step you should have initialize git repo, but it's fine. So once this part is done, we will show you like how you can initialize git repo inside this. Okay, so is it done? I think some deprecated the work that was in this beta branch won't be included in future version. Whatever, it's fine. We are not worried about that. We don't. That's the plan that we had behind vibe coding, right? We should not deep into a lot of this technical stuff, but should be able to build a lot of stuff. Okay, so at this point of time, what I'll do is I'll go to this one. I'll initialize a repository, and I'll just say first set up this feature, right? And then basically I'll commit this. There are no stage changes to commit. Would you like to stage? Or yeah, we should always stage changes, and we'll say yes, and then I'll commit those changes. And let's see if it's actually able to commit, and it is actually able to commit it right here. So this is how you can also have a version control system right here. Right, so basically what it means is, basically till now whatever changes are done is now we have a snapshot of this. You can see it here, right? So this is how you should do. And the part we told about is basically you should have Git integration from the start, or basically whatever version control system you're using. The next is basically we can organize with chat tabs, right? So basically right now we are doing everything in one chat because this is the first thing that Cursor is doing for us, those 5 steps. But usually once let's say those 5 steps are done, then what you will do, you can start a new agent chat, and there you can say, hey, let's start building maybe add it from here, or you can go to this agents and create a new agent as well. And maybe this can be your auth feature, and you can build your auth feature here, right? But let's set up the project first, and then you should go to the auth feature. Okay, so this basically means that the more tabs, the more clear the picture, and then you don't have to scroll a lot as well. This is also very important, right? And make small requests as well, like 1 request per prompt is equal to better responses. And always you do this, right? Stay in editor with the terminal. What it means is basically, if you are having some editor things that you are terminal things that you are doing, do it inside editor. Then what can happen, you can just select it and then add it to your add it to your AI panel, right? And then ask him to kind of fix things for you, or maybe run this for you, and this is the error I'm getting, hey, I can fix it for me, right? So it's asking, waiting for approval. This dot is kind of bothering me, so I'll just run it. Okay, so this is that, and this is for this video. This is where I wanted to share some tips and tricks on how I go about building my MVPs or POCs or full stack apps or websites. Yes, sometimes my main time gets spent on like how much time I spend with ChatGPT to refine my requirements and plans, and then I go about building it, right? So that's it for this video, guys. Very interesting. And then in the next video, this is where we are done with our Cursor for Beginners course. So congratulations. And the next video we'll build some projects. See you soon. Bye. Hello guys, I'm very excited to share that we have completed our Cursor AI for Beginners course. So let's quickly dive into like what we have done in this course. Okay, so in this course we discussed first about what is Cursor. Then we actually went and installed the Cursor AI editor on our systems, and actually we explored the editor that Cursor gives to us. Then we actually went and built our first app using Cursor. We also learned about the various development workflows that we go through in our software engineering lifecycle, and how we can use Cursor to kind of replicate those lifecycle. Then you also learned about how Cursor can help us learning tech stack very quickly, at the same time documenting the code that we have written, right? And finally, I shared my tips and tricks on how you guys should go about building your own projects. So this is the playlist link and this is the notes link. Let me quickly open the playlist link so you can see all the videos that we have posted on a Cursor for Beginners course. And this is where you can find all those things. So it's called Cursor AI for Beginners, and my channel is CTO Bhaiya. Okay, and this is where all the notes are being posted as well. So if you want to just go through the notes that we have done, I have also added a new README file where you can go through all the notes that we have posted for each lecture. So you can click on this and see the notes that we have created for each of our files. Okay, so let this file load and we'll see that these are the notes that we have for each lecture. Okay, so what next in Cursor? So the next course that we are going to be launching very soon is basically Cursor for advanced users. Okay, not going to talk about what the content for this course will be, but very soon we'll be launching a lot of lectures around this as well. And finally, when we are done with our Cursor for Beginners course and Cursor for advanced users, this is the time we should start building a lot of projects. In our advanced Cursor course, what we'll do, we'll actually talk about a lot of prompts, right? Prompts are very important in today's world. Knowing code is good and all, but knowing prompts and prompt engineering is a must-have skill in today's world. And then using the 2 courses that we have done, we'll finally go, and this is my 3rd course on Cursor, which will be where we'll be building 5 portfolio ready projects using Cursor. Okay guys, so that is it for this video, and very thank you for sticking so far, and we'll deep dive into advanced course for Cursor. See you soon. Bye.